Welcome, everybody, to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Nenad. Alongside me is, of course, Easy-E Eric.
What's cooking, guys?
My main man who's not looking at the camera, Jesse.
Jabronis.
And, of course, Mr. Mike's Hard himself, the RKJ Man.
Let's talk that talk, y'all. Hypocritical Nick. Please call me the Black Hangman Page right now.
Oh, damn.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. It fits the billing.
I challenge you.
I will take Truly over Mike's Hard. So Jesse's winning the battle now.
You're crazy. Truly doesn't taste nearly as good as Mike's Hard. It's not delicious. It don't have as many flavors.
And I have a red Solo cup, so I win.
Montez Ford.
Call me the White Montez Ford.
That's exactly what I was going to say. White Montez Ford.
Perfect. All right, awesome start to the podcast, guys. Obviously, we like to have fun here. Unfortunately, all our thoughts and prayers are with Shad Gaspard and his family. I'm sure if you're in the wrestling community, you know what's going on. I know people that aren't in the wrestling community that know about this heroic and both tragic story as well. We're hoping the best, although the percentages are not looking good. But yeah, we're hoping, we're praying. The Ring Generals are, I remember watching Shad from back in the day, and I believe Shad was actually at WrestleCon that we went to a couple of years ago too. So, sad story. But yeah, we just wanted to give our thoughts and prayers to Shad and his family, and we are glad his child is safe from that same incident. But so on the podcast today, we are going to be looking at multiple things. We're going to be doing a Double or Nothing preview a little later in the show. If we have a little bit of time, we're also going to discuss UFC's week that went relatively positive. The only coronavirus positive test was Jacare Souza. Of course, we're praying for him as well. That's right. But overall, for how many people were there, it was a pretty positive week for UFC, and it will show what other sports leagues and other people can do to test correctly. And then we are actually going to start with the podcast with something interesting. All right, guys, taking a little break from the actual content because we want to tell you to like, subscribe, and comment. Hey, we know you hear this on every single YouTube video, but the reason we want to tell you about it is because by liking and commenting and obviously subscribing, it puts our YouTube page, The Ring Generals, out more into the stratosphere for more fans to see like you. So if you like our content and you want to help us out, not like you're paying anything or anything like that, just a little like or comment, obviously, or subscribe. Comment on what you thought, who you think the next Dennis Rodman is in pro wrestling. Comment who you think the 9th entrant is at the casino ladder match. Anything you want. And just make sure you like, and then of course subscribe, because if you like our content, why wouldn't you just want it new? We only produce it like once a week anyway, so it's not like we're bombarding you. But just remember, like, subscribe, and comment, and RKJ Man, take it away.
Raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, if you've been following The Last Dance, the documentary on ESPN about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, you saw in the very last episode Dennis Rodman's involvement back in WCW, his crazy idea to show up on Nitro a day before an NBA Finals game with Hulk Hogan. So I want to give this off to RKJ Man because he's been the most excited to talk about this topic. RKJ, we're fellow big sports fans here. How insane was it? We obviously knew what was coming, but how insane really is it that Rodman skipped an NBA Finals practice to go to WCW?
It's actually not insane. It fits with his personality. I mean, if you've been watching this Last Dance, one of my favorite parts of the episode or the Last Dance has been when Dennis Rodman goes to Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan after Scottie Pippen comes out, because Scottie Pippen had an injury earlier that year, was out 38 games, and Jordan really had to rely on Dennis Rodman. So when Scotty came back, Dennis Rodman felt a little left out, and he was honestly really stressed out. So he said, look, I need a vacation. And Jordan was like, man, you're not going to get this dude back within 48 hours, Phil. But Phil gave him 48 hours, And Dennis Rodman, of course, broke that 48-hour rule. He was there for God knows how long. And it starts off with Big Punisher playing I Ain't a Player No More. And freaking Dennis Rodman there just partying up with Carmen Electra and everybody. And Jordan had to walk in there, grab him by the nose ring, pull him out and say, we got to go win another championship. Okay, so it doesn't surprise me that Dennis Rodman wanted to do that. And obviously, he didn't get so much heat for that amongst the organization. Obviously, he probably got a little bit of a fine. There was some ridicule as we saw in the Last Dance episode. He had to do a little running and extra, and Jackson said he embarrassed the team a little bit inside. But outside, they all supported him. He got the criticism from the media. But all I can think about is this: WCW had Dennis Rodman during the finals with Michael Jordan and them all watching them, and they still couldn't beat Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin in that 1990. That's all I can think of. Eric, how can you mess that up? How can you mess that up, Eric Bischoff? How did you mess that up where you had Dennis Rodman, the biggest pop culture icon at the time in the 90s? And I agree with everybody who says if Dennis Rodman in 2020 had social media, he would absolutely be he'll be bigger than the Kardashians. He'd be the biggest thing in the world today, bigger than Trump, because of how he could use his platform today. Imagine what he could have done with all those camera phones. Imagine what he was doing with all those camera phones around. We saw him acting crazy with cameras around, and he knew cameras were there. Imagine what he did when there was no cameras filming, nobody had any phone to record him. It would have been absolutely crazy. So I thought it was fantastic, and I'm not surprised that Dennis Rodman went off, and I just love the fact that everything connects and that pro wrestling showed up in the last episode. They didn't talk about the fact that mailmen don't deliver on Sundays, but they sure as hell had to talk about Dennis Rodman going to WCW right after a game missing practice.
Now, our own Eric, so you're a big fan of 90s wrestling. How big was this for you? Like, did this seem as crazy for you being less of a sports fan, more of a wrestling fan? What was your thoughts on this whole incident?
Here's the thing. I was watching the last two episodes of The Last Dance, and I did watch the last episode. It was, damn, I did want to get the inside scoop of how the Bulls felt about this whole thing, because as wrestling fans, it's a win-win for obviously WCW. It's a win for having an athlete, somebody who's really popular at the time, and bringing him in 97, and then bringing him again in 99, 98 and 99. In 97, just bringing him in at the time with Hogan, that's big. It's almost like saying to everybody, to every single fan, saying that, hey, we got Rodman in here. It's almost like anybody can join the NWO. All right, anybody can join the NWO. Hey, fuck, I want to join the NWO. Damn it, come on, man. We want to party with Hogan and Rodman and fucking Nash and Scott Hall and all those guys. Hell yeah. The thing is that it's kind of stuck onto me. With me, I was talking about this with my brother. Shout out to my brother, though. My brother told me that if there's anything that we can learn from this, because WCW in 97, they were kicking WWF's ass at the time. WWF had to find ways to like fire back. And if it wasn't for Rodman, I don't think WWF would be brought in Mike Tyson to fire back at them, because Mike Tyson, in a way, helped WWF at the time in 98 to jumpstart the whole, to make sure that the ratings war was in the favor of WWF. If when WWF would beat them. So that's huge. So in a way, like, Rodman helped influence WWF to try to do something like that, almost like the copycat. But obviously they were going back and forth with that. So that's cool. I think it was pretty awesome. Obviously for the wrestling fans, it was awesome to see it. Although for non-wrestling fans, because I did see the commentary for Dennis Rodman saying that how dare he disrespect the legacy of the Chicago Bulls for that. But for me as a wrestling fan, I'm like, bro, this is awesome. Like, this is great. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is like, speaking as a wrestling fan, it's it's hard to look through that how he missed practice with the Bulls, but either way, it was great. What I did find very interesting was when Dennis Rodman was leaving the building, and the press was looking for him, and then the press found him, and you see Dennis Rodman just going up the stairs, running, and then just booking it. And I thought that was like, okay, I didn't see that part, but that's awesome. But anyway, they went on to win the championship in '98. Rest is history. Same for '97. I enjoyed it, but as a fan of WCW, a fan of pro wrestling, I think it was great in culture, like culturally, yes. Pop culture and just sports in general. I think it did a favor for both, at least, for the world of pro wrestling and basketball. I think it was just a win-win for everybody. That's just me as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, no. I mean, very, very interesting point there, Eric. Jesse, and I want to let people know that Jesse is recovering from multiple alcohol injuries during this podcast today, much like myself. But so Jesse, what are your thoughts on this whole Rodman thing? And obviously, what this ended up being was this ended up translating into a storyline at Bash of the Beach, where Karl Malone was on one team and Dennis Rodman was on the other. Karl Malone obviously played the Bulls in the finals. So Jesse, what's your opinion about just celebrities as well being involved in such or such high profile celebrities being involved in big storylines in wrestling?
Well, it's basically with celebrities being into like in pro wrestling, sports wise, and showing up into those events. It's basically like a hot commodity. It's what's hot. It's what's in. If we had social media back then, people would be all over this. We'll be tweeting this. But no, It was the 90s. The 90s were basically I'll say it's like a golden era, especially for the Bulls. Okay, because they're winning championships. And Rodman, we all know Rodman. Rodman was a hell of a character. Guy was spontaneous. He would just kind of ditch. Well, like RK and Ryan covered it. How he kind of basically ditch his whole team and go to these places like, hey, I'd rather do me, I'd rather have my own personal days, and I don't want to, I don't want the team or anybody else to spoil that for me, and I just want to be the man. Hell, I think of him as the Becky Lynch of the back in the day. I'm the man kind of type of style, But yeah, Rodman is one hell of a character though.
Shout out to Becky Lynch, by the way, for being the first pregnant man in the history of the universe, too.
It's going in the archives, dude.
The first pregnant man. It's history, left and right. WWE committed history. RKJ, you have a point.
Look, I got a couple of things to say about this Dennis Rodman thing. Okay, first of all, shout out to the people on Twitter who were saying that when Carmen Electra was kissing the trophy, that wasn't the only thing she was kissing that night. Okay, shout out to them who said that, because that is true. That was not the only trophy she probably kissed that night. Now, also, let's talk about this situation as well. All right, I saw in a recent shoot interview with Kevin Nash. Shout out to the U-Shoot interview where he said that he was partying with Dennis Rodman one night and quote, he was offered something that was meant to be very special for Dennis. Apparently, it was something that was very close to Dennis Rodman's heart. What do we think that is? Do we think Kevin Nash, Big Sexy, got with Carmen Electra?
Oh, interesting. I thought you were talking about drugs for a second, because I think a lot of drugs would be very special to Dennis Rodman as well. I don't know. What do you guys think about this?
I think Kevin Nash will bang anything. So, knowing, Kevin Nash, just being Kevin Nash, Big Sexy, it's almost like, I don't know if he was high that day when he was saying that, but I think there's a possibility that happened. What do you think, Jesse?
I mean, what I think, Kevin Nash will bang anything in a tight dress, and especially if it's kind of silky smooth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Those type of like a Matrix kind of type of style,
He's been really specific.
Yeah.
Maybe something electric, right?
Basically.
So basically,
it's electric. That means he'll bang The Rock, because The Rock is the most electric in sports entertainment.
It was a playoff Carmen Electra's name, but yes, he would also bang The Rock. You are correct.
So this could be this kind of be like a Reddit Gone Wild story that I can probably read in the future.
Potentially. Maybe we've seen it on Reddit as well. A Kevin Nash, Carmen Electra story. No, RKJ, I do agree with you. I just want to get their opinions too. I do think that is what he meant. If you haven't seen that U-Shoot, go watch that U-Shoot, because obviously if you've been watching The Last Dance, it ties right into somebody that probably was there that night, obviously, involved in that whole thing. So,
hey man, all I'm gonna say is this: Carmen Electra, she looks fine, and if she were to start OnlyFans, I would sign up for that. I would sign up for that OnlyFans. Okay, she looks fantastic.
I had to agree with you, RKJ.
what a start to the
Hey.
podcast.
Looks phenomenal. She's 48. Good God.
Hey. She's still a mamacita, man.
Yeah.
Less.
Hey man, that says that people like over 40 like J-Lo and Shakira and Salma Hayek. It proves that damn they still look good to this day.
I'll throw Jennifer Aniston into that.
Aniston is in that one too. So
Aniston looks, Jennifer Aniston, she's in her 50s.
I'll quote this, as the great Derek Lewis would say, "My balls are hot."
Yeah, when is he gonna fight?
Shout out to Jesse and Derek's balls, man.
Cheers.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously, it's been very interesting watching The Last Dance, knowing how they would cover the Dennis Rodman whole WCW thing. Obviously, if you're a wrestling fan watching it, you knew eventually they would have to cover it because of how minuscule some of the other stories they were covering were. And I think they portrayed it perfectly, obviously.
I was excited.
Yeah, because you see Phil's direct reaction. The behind the scenes is even better of it, where they're like, I don't know where the hell he is. Like, where is he? And it was interesting, too, that Michael Jordan continued to really not care about Rodman's behavior. He kind of just dealt with it and understood that Dennis Rodman was a key cog to the machine, and that even as crazy as he was going to be, Michael Jordan was like, you're good. Just come back and do your thing. And he did that in the next game against the Jazz.
Well, I'll say this, that Dennis Rodman's like an underrated hero. He's like one of those guys who you don't expect, but is a special key player. If Michael Jordan wasn't, performing at his best, and, Michael Jordan didn't have anybody else to rely on, and, here comes Dennis Rodman, turning up the heat and helping out his teammates. And I think he's like an underrated hero, even though he was kind of on kinds of stuff back in the day.
I know one thing. There's a particular scene, I don't know if it's in the second or third episode, where Dennis Rodman, it's early in the season, and the Bulls are kind of struggling a little bit without Pippen. And there's one point where Dennis Rodman goes into the stands, destroys everybody in the front, gets the ball out to Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr drains the three. Dennis Rodman goes crazy. The whole crowd goes crazy. He had that undeniable energy, not just for sports, but for pop culture in general. And we need more Dennis Rodmans in professional wrestling. So I have to ask this question: who is the Dennis Rodman of pro wrestling?
Well, I New Jack is what comes to me. Unfortunately, that's not really current necessarily. It is interesting to think about who it is now. I'm going to throw out somebody that's very interesting, and although they're not famous now, I think could get very famous in pop culture, and I think that's MJF. I personally think MJF could be that guy that does stuff in pop culture and acts the way he does in professional wrestling, and could stir up shit in other things because of his attitude.
You know what? Now that you bring that, actually, I kind of see that happening too. And also Kobe Covington. If those two came across, Kobe Covington and MJF have the same personality to the point you just can't deny. They have that charisma. They'll bring that charisma out in the public, will not, be ashamed to display it. People would just be like, I hate you, but that's what makes them, so marketable, because they hate, or if not, they love them.
I can see that happening, although there is one guy who he's been on the I guess you can say on the beta male bitch club with RKJ, and that happens to be Enzo Amore. So I think maybe Enzo Amore
not bad. Yeah,
because he's been after WE, he's been like stirring some stuff out, trying to be in WE shows. When we saw him over at Survivor Series in LA, and then him showing up in Madison Square Garden, and then him trying to get into a fight with Joey Janela at a Blink-182 concert.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, this guy, he ain't gonna learn from any of his shit. I feel like he really does love the glory and does love the recognition from the outside world if he's, since he's in the world of rap. And I'm pretty sure he's going to keep on continuing that lifestyle almost the same way as Dennis Rodman, So with that being said, I think Enzo Amore would be, in my opinion, the current version of Dennis Rodman, the charismatic part.
I'll say this, Eric. I'll say Enzo's music is kind of like Tyron Woodley's rap music. It's gonna go straight to nobody's gonna buy it. I love Tyron Woodley, but no, I'm not gonna buy that.
Right.
Shit's garbage. Right.
That's funny. It's fun. I mean, I think we could agree, though, too. You did mention Colby Covington, that currently in MMA, it's almost impossible not to agree that Conor McGregor has been the one guy that has been doing stuff. So he's been, bad stuff, good stuff, performance in the ring, just like Dennis Rodman, almost even more because of how famous he's got and how dominant he's been before.
And the crazy thing is some of those things that Connor got is from Vince and Ric Flair.
That's true.
Yep.
Okay, true. The strut's from Vince. The style, Ric Flair. Who else would you get those two things from? Where it correlates, it goes around in a full circle.
It does.
It all connects. Yeah. It's funny how pro wrestling just connects with everything. Even in sports, the biggest document, maybe pro wrestling played a part in the Bulls dynasty getting blown up. Because they said, he went to this.
Oh, yeah. Pro wrestling was big back in the late 90s. I mean, it was like number one.
I'll say this. Even if you're not a pro wrestling fan or any fan of any other sport, you are going to be a fan of what they did because I think they're going to copy those same monikers or styles from those sports. So
even the promo videos, how it leads up to a game or at least to a fight, in the world of boxing, MMA, you can see that the promos, how they would have these guys going at it, like just how the style is from pro wrestling, from WWE, WCW, back in the day, even the current product, it's almost like influenced, in the world of sports just for their promos. So I think pro wrestling should get all the credit they deserve,
Yeah, I'll tell you, I say, a lot of the kind of firecracker MLB players or the signs that they do is directly like linked to sports. You see a lot of people do "You Can't See Me," right? You see a lot of football players do the DX crotch chop, which I'm sure would be a 15-yard penalty.
I wonder where they got that from, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Or even just the fact that like players are kind of hitting promos during like the home run derby or the All-Star. Like it's there's a lot of pro wrestling involved in sports, and we saw it almost in the biggest possible moment in the 1998 NBA Finals. I'm sure there were tons of fans that watched the next game because of what Rodman did on Nitro.
Did anybody see that at the end when they won that championship, he crotch chopped the Utah fans?
I did. Yeah, I did.
The Utah fans.
I'm sure WCW was thrilled about that too.
It's always wins. They'd be like, "Who crotched that? Oh, it's WWF. Oh, okay, I watch WWF on Monday night." Oh my goodness, man.
Good stuff. It's unfortunate Last Dance is over, and it's unfortunate that there hasn't been more crazy involvement in pro wrestling since that stuff kind of went down. But all right, let's move on a little bit. We have a little extra time to do this before we get into our Double or Nothing review. Obviously, we've been talking about this the last couple weeks. The UFC putting on multiple events in Jacksonville, Florida. They've been under the microscope of the entire world because of the fact that they're really the first sports to come back. Eric, I'll give you the first shot on this. What are your thoughts after 3 fights? Apparently only the one positive test for Jacare Souza and his cornermen that were directly connected to him. What are your thoughts after this week in the UFC, and what do you expect from here on out?
I mean, yeah, I can totally tell that they're taking all the safe precautions. It's almost like walking into a minefield, if you ask me, because obviously UFC being under the microscope, and you can say that they were like the ones carrying the flag for sports, even if you're not a fan of MMA, it's a scary thought to know that, we're putting everybody out there on the line, everybody at risk, but the show must go on. I saw everybody getting tested on the first pay-per-view. I saw everybody, like even Dana White, everybody got tested. Even Joe Rogan said, like, yeah, everybody. There's nobody in that building who didn't, who didn't get tested. Everybody all got tested. So it's good to know that they're all following the guidelines. And so for UFC, there's promise going into that because they acted quickly and they acted early on. And so for these guys to have more fights in the future, UFC Fight Night, no problems whatsoever. Jacare Sosa, yeah, hopefully everything goes well. I can see the next pay-per-view also, come in hand. Hopefully maybe in the future they come closer and closer here to California, and then slowly but surely start bringing in fans again, but obviously that's not the case. There's no fans. But as of late, the shows has been good. They've been doing pretty good as of late. I've talked about this with my dad, saying that yeah, the fans are not there to give more energy into the fights, but at least we get to hear the cornermen. We get to actually hear what the referees say. The cornermen, even the fighters, actually breathe or talk. So that's actually pretty cool. But hopefully everything is going well with them, and in the future, I think they're handling everything well. Obviously, it's like walking into a minefield. Just make sure, just get everybody, following all the guidelines. That's all I ask for the UFC.
Jesse, what has your opinion been kind of on the whole event, the fact that UFC it's put on these great cards, and so has it delivered in that realm for you? Besides the fact, because of the fact there's been no fans, have you still been satisfied as a UFC fanatic with all three events?
I mean, look, as a MMA fan, I'm still going to be a fan no matter what. Whether I hate the card or not, I mean, whether it's a small card or big card, I'm still a fan of the craft of what they do. I appreciate what they do. I'm not a casual like some of the people out there. Sorry, guys, I'm calling you out, but yes, it's true. You are casuals. Okay, I'm looking at you, Orion.
Casuals get you the highest buy rates in history. So I don't know why you're complaining. I don't know why you're complaining. We still get you. We still get you to see a lot of money. They want our money too.
Okay, but anyways, other than that, besides that, at the very beginning of this, since this pandemic, I've been a little bit hesitant to be a little bit critical because why should these guys like risk their lives just for a paycheck? Why can't they just kind of have like their sponsors or other people kind of help them out just a little bit? But no, none of those. These guys kind of shut my mouth up, and then they went on to do what they do best. Is perform for the rest of the world, and I surely could really appreciate it. I loved it. I love the card even without the fans, and I'm pretty sure some of the fans out there who are watching it from their homes, they agree with me. They love that card. Everything has been great. The staff, doctors, everybody else, Joe Rogan, DC, John Anik, Dana White, everybody in the UFC kind of took precautions, and they're like, okay, I think we could do this and a little bit more. We just kind of take a little more baby steps, and we'll get there. It's inevitable. We're gonna come back and get our sports back, but these guys did a phenomenal job. I couldn't ask for anything more. I appreciate it, and I love it.
RKJ, you were a little skeptical of these kind of events happening just for any sports, and including UFC. After seeing what a success it's been for the UFC over their 8 days of shows, with 3 shows in 8 days, what are your thoughts on this after, and does it give you any hope for future sports?
Yeah, it does give me hope for future sports, even though I think we are going to get sports regardless because of just how much of a cash cow it is. And, as much as, taking aside my political beliefs or other political beliefs, the governors, even the president of the United States is really pushing for sports to come back in America. I do respect what UFC did. They followed every guideline administered by the state of Florida and their athletic commission to make sure everything was followed correctly. I am a little concerned about the fact that a UFC fighter who thought he was positive and thought maybe he could have had something and turned out he did have the virus, came onto that flight anyway, possibly got people infected, and of course got there and told them about it. I am a little concerned about the fact that Dana White was seen dapping him up. I am a little concerned with the proximity sometimes in that situation with the weigh-ins. I don't want the proximity there. There shouldn't be hand touching and stuff like that. But overall, I think it was positive. I think it was good. The question is, can you do it again? Okay, we had it in Florida. Can you do it in Arizona? Can you do it in Oklahoma? Can you do it in California? Can you do it on Fight Island? Can you continuously do it? Because if this virus is something, and what it looks like, it's going to be a very long-term situation for the rest of the year. What can you do to reduce the chance of infection? And what if somebody like a Khabib or McGregor says, you know what, I don't like it. It's too dangerous. How do you replace those fighters? How do you get those fighters on? I loved the previous big UFC card. I believe UFC 249, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. The fight nights, though, I have to admit, they did not do enough for me. They did not. They were not interesting enough for me. If I'm UFC and I'm Dana White, you've got to have your heavy hitters right now, because literally the world is watching you. Sports are watching you. They're going to emulate what they do. The reason why Major League Baseball is having talks right now and got the proposal done, the NBA is having talks and got that proposal done, is because of what's going on with UFC. Because they saw what UFC happened. They saw that a positive test happened. They said, oh, somebody can be positive, but yet we can still play these sports if we just isolate that person. Now, obviously, it's much different in Major League Baseball with teams. It's much different in pro basketball or hockey or even football in the fall. But it can still happen. So I do appreciate UFC for giving us at least some sort of a blueprint to be successful. But I think they have to continuously follow state guidelines. They have to be careful. They have to be a little bit more pre-screening with these situations. Maybe eliminate some of the weigh-ins, or maybe eliminate if a person thinks that they're sick, just say don't come on the flight. We'll replace it. There's plenty of fighters out there who want to fight on a big UFC card. But overall, I think they did a good job. But those UFC Fight Night cards, they got to get better, guys, because I'm not going to watch them if they're crappy.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points, RKJ. And for me, as a big MMA fan too, I wasn't able, just because of just life stuff, I wasn't able to watch the last two ESPN cards. I did obviously watch UFC 249. I was honestly, out of anything, just hoping there wasn't a giant pandemic of fighters getting sick. That's really the one thing I cared about, that didn't happen. And it obviously didn't happen, because I knew that if the UFC was successful, and how dangerous, how bloody, and how sweaty the fighters get during those fights, if they're able to just do all that, I mean, we're talking about every single sport can come back with the right measures. I just recorded a podcast right before this talking about MLB's safety protocols. It's very, very similar to what the UFC did, just for in a more long-term basis. I've been trying to find the statistics in the website I was using, but I can't find it. But if you can find that, it's very similar to what the UFC did. So I assume MLB took a model off of that, and that's great. And I'm happy for Dana White. I was happy with the fights for UFC 249. I did, as more of an MMA fan, I did understand that some of those cards were going to be less interesting, but I still could, recognize that there was still a lot of good fights and good fighters on those fight night cards, and they will just get better as we go on, especially with some of those UFC 250, 251 cards. And sure, they're going to be crazy.
So, I will say this though, from what we know about the virus, sometimes it could take a while before it sets in. So I am a little nervous, because if this dude was talking to people and thought, oh, I don't have it, and maybe they didn't rush him as fast enough, and he was touching Dana White, or he was touching other people, and somebody wasn't really being as safe as they possibly could, we could see somebody test positive in a week or two. So let's check for that. Let's make sure it's good. If we can see in 2 weeks if somebody's not positive other than him and his cornermen too, then I think it's also considered a major success too as well. Not that it's not already considered a success, but it's even more of a success.
Oh, I'm a little confused at what you're talking about, though. I assume you're talking about how people cannot know they have it for a week or two, but I think even if you're asymptomatic, you can test positive, and fighters would have tested positive, I assume. And I don't know exactly when Jacare did test positive, because they test them every day they were there. So if he tested positive the first day, yes, I believe fighters would have all tested positive. So I think you see Dana White and how he knuckled him up. It's interesting that Dana White didn't test positive because he was there every single day for all 8 days. So I'm not sure if there will be more people after this. I think people that are associated with Jacare, yes, you might want to know. I understand that guy needs to be quarantining. Jacare should not be outside his home right now. But as far as everybody else, I think everybody else will be fine from this. It will be interesting when they switch venues to see if everything ends up being the same thing. We're obviously hoping for that for sure. All right, to switch topic, guys, we are going to switch to another company that has tested well and has everybody fortunately not sick so far, and that is AEW. They're running Double or Nothing this weekend. Like normal, this was supposed to be in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. The ring generals were supposed to be there. 14,000 other people were supposed to be there. But unfortunately, it's going to happen in Jacksonville, Florida instead. And so the card itself, though, is still as amazing as a normal Double or Nothing card would be, just without fans. So I just want to run through it really quickly before we start talking about specific matches. I'll start with the pre-show match. It is Private Party versus Best Friends. This is a #1 contenders match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Surprised that's on the pre-show, because that's a great match, and the Best Friends are really, really over. I assume Orange Cassidy will be involved in that as well. We also have on this card Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander. That rivalry was pretty much started last Wednesday. Let's see. We had Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, no disqualification, no countout match for the AEW Women's World Championship. I think they had to do that because nobody would have cared. MJF versus Jungle Boy. I'm down for anything MJF. We have, let's see, Cody versus Lance Archer for the AEW TNT Championship. That will be presented by Iron Mike Tyson. That was a revelation I wasn't expecting. We also...
Over again.
We also have the Casino Ladder match, which is essentially a Money in the Bank ladder match in some ways. Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Rey Fenix, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian, and Luchasaurus. Holy shit. By the way, a surprise entrant as well. We also have the Elite with Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle in a Stadium Stampede match. That will happen inside the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. That's going to be awesome. And then, of course, Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee for the AEW World Championship. What a card, guys. Wow. Stacked. Very stacked. So, I mean, there's so many main events. You have the Casino Ladder match. You have the AEW TNT Stadium Stampede. Obviously the AEW World Championship match. What do we want to start with here? I think we'll go over one of the main event matches because I think the other matches aren't as important and don't need our time on this. But what do you guys, Jesse? How about you? You pick a match. What do you want to start with on this?
You know what? I want to go with the Stampede match.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. So this is in some ways it's a redemption for the Blood and Guts match. Correct, that was supposed to happen at the Prudential Center and also was supposed to happen with no fans. Obviously, that match doesn't make much sense without any fans, so they moved it. Who do we think goes over here? Jesse, I'll give you first hit on this one. You picked the match. Who wins this match, and how do you see this going? How do you see this match going?
I see this match lasting for a while, to be honest. I see it lasting for a while. I'll think about it as if I was like watching I hope it doesn't turn out like Edge or Randy Orton, that we saw in,
Yes, please.
I'm just hoping we don't see it, prolong. It's like, that long. At least like AJ Styles versus Undertaker, basically like that. And my pick, oh man, I don't know, man. I can't.
It's not the way this works, Jesse. You gotta pick somebody.
Right
no.
Gotta be right now, Jess.
I'll go with Matt Hardy and the boys.
There you go. And then, by the way, that's the return of Adam Page and the Jacksons. too. The Young Bucks. God, why did I call them the Jacksons? Who's ever done that ever in the history of podcasting? But yeah, so RKJ, what do you think about those guys finally returning? We've heard Adam Page has been away with coronavirus. Not the coronavirus, but he's been staying away. He's been social distancing on purpose. Jackson's obviously living in California, similar thing. What do you think about those guys being back for this, and also the match itself? Pick who you think is going to win.
It really sucks with this pandemic because it's taken a lot of steam out of AEW and just pro wrestling in general. It's really tough. I know some people are giving AEW credit with having fans. It's still tough for me to watch, honestly. It really is still tough for me to watch. And I originally said, I'm not going to buy this pay-per-view with no fans. But getting on to the match, I think having Hangman Page is a huge thing. I mean, they haven't even mentioned it, with Hangman Page. I would have hoped they would have done at least some promos or something. I'm a little disappointed they haven't done something similar to with the Jacksons, when they were out.
Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks, whatever.
Look at that. We both did it.
I'm thinking Michael Jackson, man. I'm thinking another MJ.
Just say this. The Young Pacers, okay?
Did you guys hear what RKJ Man just said, though? He said he always thinks about Michael Jackson. So let's just take that in the heart, and then let's continue the podcast.
Hey, man, Free Willy. Anyway, so thinking about it, Free Willy. But with this, I wanted to see more. With that situation with Hangman Page, at least being more creative on social media. I mean, technology is more rampant these days, so you can use technology. We've seen it with the Inner Circle and how they've done the whole Brady Bunch thing and how fantastic that's been. But yeah, I think this matchup is going to be a solid match. The Stadium Stampede match. I'm going to expect a lot of blood. I'm going to expect a lot of violence. It's going to be a makeup for Blood and Guts, which is why I think we're going to get the Inner Circle winning this matchup first of all, to sow more seeds of discord with the Elite and with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega eventually losing the tag team championship to, I believe, honestly, Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. I think this is going to set up possibly. I think there could be a possibility in August, maybe for All Out, limited capacity All Out. You could have a little bit of fans. That's a place where what I consider All Out to be like the WrestleMania of AEW. I consider that to be their big match, and I think they're going to have Blood and Guts there. So I think we're going to get on Saturday night Inner Circle winning with some issues between the Elite, or maybe them blaming Hangman Page because he hasn't been there, or the Young Bucks. And I think that's going to lead to Kenny Omega and Hangman Page losing the championships. They're going to have a feud. They're going to have to all come together, though, for Blood and Guts and All Out.
It's a good scenario that RKJ played out. But deep down, just by seeing how Matt Hardy has been doing, he hasn't been in the company that long. So I would think that Matt Hardy and the Elite would pick up the victory just to keep the feud going. And this could also set a match between Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho at All Out. Big matchup between the two. Obviously, in the weeks, coming with having guys like Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager going up against Adam Hangman Page, and then just having all these tag team matches going out for the next few weeks, just to culminate and have gimmick matches in the next few weeks and next months leading up to All Out or something else like AEW. Because sometimes AEW, what they would do is that they would bring in a certain show, I guess Bash at the Beach, or a pay-per-view quality kind of show, just to match up with NXT. Now, granted that AEW's Dynamite show, they've been doing great in the ratings. They've been beating NXT, so that's a good way to bring in a special pay-per-view show just to help feud with the feud between Matt Hardy and Jericho, or just the Elite and the Inner Circle. The match itself, it should be interesting because it's going to take place in a stadium. We've been used to seeing fights happen in the empty arenas, like the small venues. So it'll be very interesting seeing it in a big stadium over in the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium. So it should be interesting, and it could be a match of the night. Although Jungle Boy and MJF, they could be reserved for the match of the night. I don't know, but hopefully the Inner Circle and the Elite can prove me wrong by saying, yeah, this is the match of the night, or maybe possibly maybe match of the year. Who knows? In terms of building of the storyline and how everything's been bringing together. But yeah.
I'll say this. I think the Inner Circle's winning this because I like RKJ Man's scenario of obviously the Adam Page, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks feud that was happening before this all went down. Unfortunately, because the Young Bucks and Adam Page haven't really been able to be there, it's been put on the back burner. But that, I think, is going to restart. I do disagree with you, RKJ Man, on that it would be Les Sex Gods. I think it would be more someone like Santana and Ortiz, because they're an actual tag team, and I do see Chris Jericho eventually going after Matt Hardy. I don't think you want to waste Santana and Ortiz and just kind of be using them as goons. Give them the tag team titles. Make make the Inner Circle one of the most important groups again. So although I do think the Inner Circle is winning, I don't think it would be Les Sex Gods that would take the titles away from Adam Page and Kenny Omega. I think it would be Santana and Ortiz, proud and powerful, representing New York as well. Yeah, that match's going to be insane. I expect someone to jump off the goalpost, maybe the scoreboard. It's going to be crazy. I want football involved. By the way, shout out to Sammy Guevara for taking that golf cart shot. Yes. That was so dangerous, and I legit thought he was seriously hurt when it happened to him. I was surprised he was able to get up. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I accidentally turned on AEW right at the end of it and saw that happen. And I'm like, turn it off. I have this tape. And it was just, I was like, that is such a brutal thing to watch when you first turn on the TV. Jeez, but, yeah, that match is probably going to be insane, and I hope it's as violent as possible. All right, speaking of violence, let's get to the casino ladder match. And so, obviously, what is this? 1, 2, 3. We got 9 contestants. One has not been announced and will be announced. There will be a surprise entrant at Double or Nothing. So let's first guess who that's going to be, and then we'll guess the winners. I will go first. This has got to be Brian Cage. I think this is going to be Brian Cage, our boy. We've seen him many times at Bar Wrestling. Shout out to Bar Wrestling, by the way. We hope you guys can get back up and running as soon as possible, and we will be there at the first show, coronavirus or not. That's what I'm saying right now. Whoever wants to come with me, they're coming with me. But yeah, I know. That's why I knew you were going to raise your hand immediately. So the casino line match, 9 people. I think it's going to be Brian Cage. He already signed with the company a long time ago. There's not really anybody I can see on the horizon that should be debuting right now. And none of the guys that were recently released from WWE really should be in that match either. And I think they can't be because of their 90-day non-competes. And even if you have a 30-day non-compete, you wouldn't be able to be in this match. So that's who I'm going with, Brian Cage. RKJ Man, who do you see going with this?
You know, I thought a lot about this. Like, I really pondered it. And to be honest with you guys, usually I have an answer for this, but I don't.
Wow.
No clue who is going to be the 9th entrant, which makes it exciting for me because I could be completely surprised. And the rules of this match, Nick, can you explain a little bit of the rules for this match? Because I was a little confused with the rules. It's like a Royal Rumble style, right?
So let me see. I don't know the full rules. It is similar to the Royal Rumble or the Casino Battle Royal, where it's not just all 9 guys starting in the ring. It's going to be guys coming in at intervals. There's a certain amount of time that the guys are going to come in, like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or something like that. It's a mix of the Royal Rumble and the Money in the Bank ladder match, and also the Casino Battle Royal that happened both at All Out for the women and for Double or Nothing last year. So if you want to go back and watch those to kind of get a taste, you should. They're also very entertaining. What's up?
It's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it's a good idea, and obviously they have to come up with new stuff. They don't want to copy WWE, but I think this is one of the most surprising things I've ever heard. RKJ does not know who this is going to be. It's very surprising.
You tell me I have an opinion for everything under the sun, but in this case, I have no freaking clue, and I just hope they surprise us and do something that's different. I just hope it's not some random bum on the AEW roster that we don't care about. Like, I saw somebody say Pineapple Pete. I mean, I like Pineapple Pete. I like him. I think he's cool, but his spot shouldn't be reserved for this. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be somebody that we're like, okay, this is really shocking. Like, holy shit.
Eric, who do you have being the 9th entrant in this match?
I'm going to go with something crazy in this one. This might be a one-time thing. RKJ is going to like this one. New Jack. I'm just going with something crazy, just for one night only.
So you do. So you. What I'm guessing is you don't have any idea either.
Bring in New Jack. Just something crazy, just for a one-time thing, just to satisfy everyone. Because I was gonna go with EC3 at first, but you did bring up a good part about EC3 or the WWE wrestlers. They can't be competing with like 30-day or 90-day. Kind of thing.
Well, there were certain guys that were released before all that happened. So if there's a 30-day, they might be able to, but I'm not gonna pick that anyways. I think. But so RKJ, what are you gonna say?
NXT wrestlers have a 30-day non-complete clause.
Was there anybody famous enough though that should be in this match? To be honest, though, that was released from NXT.
No.
That's what I was thinking.
So WWE wrestlers, and WWE did this on purpose, obviously, because they know it's close enough to Double or Nothing. But a 90-day, the WWE has a 90-day non-compete clause on these wrestlers who were released due to the pandemic. So they wouldn't be able to make it for that. Maybe All Out, but they won't be able to make it for Double or Nothing.
I gotcha. So Eric's going with New Jack. RKJ Man is going with the Invisible Man. I am going with Brian Cage. Jesse, it's all you. Who do you think the ninth entrant is?
All right. Look, this is the guy we haven't seen in a long time. I don't think we ever seen him since the Lucha Underground days. So be surprised. Marty
the Moth?
Marty the Moth.
Okay. Not bad. Bad. We've met Marty the Moth before. Very nice guy.
Yes, shout out to him.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think if they have someone like that come back, though, they need to really... His character needs to be something super interesting too, though.
That's right.
Because I think that would surprise a lot of the wrestling community if somebody like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I would love to see Marty.
I like Marty the Moth too.
Yeah, that's true, and he's still the Lucha Underground champion. So he's the last champion before they actually went off the air. So how much is that title worth? Why not defend it in a show like AEW? Why not put it on the line?
There you go. Here's something interesting I thought of while we were talking after I picked Brian Cage. If it isn't someone obvious, maybe we see like the loser of the TNT championship match in this potentially. Like maybe Cody sneaks into this match and that's a way he gets his AEW World Championship. Like something weird like that happens where it's someone that is already on the card. Maybe Brody Lee loses to Jon Moxley and comes back in this match, and maybe the main event is, say, the Stadium Stampede. Like maybe something weird like that happens. Just throwing it out there.
I love that scenario.
I would love that too, because it would be super surprising, and I just probably spoiled it for a bunch of people if it does happen. They're gonna be pissed. MJF, another wild card for me as well, in that match too. Okay, so we didn't pick a winner. So Jesse, why don't you pick a winner of this match? Is it Marty the Moth or is it one of the 8 other guys?
I'll say one of the 8 other guys. I mean, Marty the Moth.
Who do you think, though? Who do you think's going to win? Ray Phoenix.
Yes.
Ray Phoenix.
Yes.
By the way, Ray Phoenix, probably potentially the best wrestler on AEW's roster. Very interesting pick. Eric, who do you got winning the match?
I see Colt Cabana winning this one. Maybe SCU might help them out with the help of Kazarian or Scorpio Sky. But
Scorpio Sky, I mean, they're in the match though.
Yeah, they are in the match, but I can probably see them helping him out. But I think Colt Cabana does have a chance on going up against Cody or whoever the champion is, Jon Moxley, for the AEW Championship. Sorry, yeah, AEW Championship with Jon Moxley or Brody Lee. But that would be a great addition. Good shot for him.
RKJ, who do you have winning this match?
I think it should be obvious. Darby Allin. I think he's the hottest superstar in AEW besides, Kenny Omega and all the major superstars. He has been the most popular. I think he's one of the people who maybe have suffered the most without the fans, because you saw the fans were really into Darby before this pandemic hit, and it seems like he's cooled down a little bit. But I think he's going to utilize some of the stuff that Taz has been talking to him about, and he's going to utilize that, and Taz is going to become his manager, just kind of like in TNA when I don't know if it was Abyss, guys, but Taz.
Samoa Joe.
It was Samoa Joe. He was Taz was mentoring Samoa Joe. I think he's going to do that with Darby Allin. This is going to be his next big step. I think he's going to get bigger. I think he's getting bigger than that TNT Championship. Honestly, I think he's going to go ahead and go for the AEW Championship. I would love a rematch between Darby Allin and Jon Moxley again, maybe at an All Out.
Boy, do I want Orange Cassidy to win this match. I'll just tell you that right now. I want him to win this match. But I got to give him my boy Darby Allin. I got to agree with you, RKJ, man. The way we know wrestling, the way they're building for this, it would make the most sense if Darby Allin won. But to be honest, I could see them do something like Rey Fenix or Colt Cabana because of the times that we're in. And maybe save a giant title match with a Darby Allin or with somebody else later on. And you never know. You know, anybody that wins this match, a Kip Sabian, a Scorpio Sky, a Luchasaurus, maybe they branch off in the next couple months. And this is not saying that they get the next AEW World Championship match. They get a future one. But I'm going to go with Darby Allin. But this, you know, I think one of the things here that's interesting is that maybe they revamp a character, and it's like the Money in the Bank, where you build somebody up and have them win, and it's a bigger deal than even Darby Allin going and competing. Very interesting there. All right, 2 more matches we want to go over. Let's go over Cody versus Lance Archer. Man, this has been probably the rivalry going into this, the rivalry of Double or Nothing. We have Arn Anderson and Brandy Rhodes with Cody. Obviously, Jake, the motherfucking snake, with Lance Archer. We've already had Brandy Rhodes almost get murdered by a snake on TV. We're getting Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts on TV this Wednesday. Jake the Snake's been amazing. I'll predict who I think is winning this match. I think it's going to be Lance Archer. They've been building this guy up nicely. I think they want Cody with different stuff. I think it'd be weird if they just gave Cody the TNT Championship just because he's not the world champion. So I think they'll go with Archer. Archer seemed impossible to beat. I was watching it with my girlfriend last week, and she's like, why would Cody be able to even compete with this guy if everybody's losing in like a minute? And I agreed with her. I was like, you're right. You know, and he no-sold all of Cody's stuff the other day on Dynamite. So I don't see Cody winning this match. I know there's a lot of interference in Cody's matches and stuff like that, but I've been building up Jake the Snake and Lance Archer too much. I think he's winning this title, and he's probably going to hold it for a while too.
I'm going to have to agree with you. Right now, with since the pandemic and everything else, and plus the past matches that Cody's been in, obviously there's the interferences, but at the same time, it's kind of like giving that his opponent a boost, a morale. Put his name out there more of it, besides his, because he's already a big name. I mean, think about it. He's gonna just like when he's facing MJF, and he was beating MJF, and then to the point he gets an elbow to the face and he just kind of goes down, and it kind of builds him up. So I honestly believe that Cody would most likely will lose his match, because him winning a title off this very first TNT championship. No, it's not going to happen.
RKJ? What's up? Sorry.
And he's going to be pretty busy doing other stuff as well.
Interesting take on that. RKJ, who do you think wins the match?
First of all, I think Lance Archer's winning. I think it's a bad idea, Lance Archer, to be barely a month into wrestling for the company, a couple of months, and for him to lose to Cody. And the reason why I think it's a bad idea also is because I think Cody needs to turn heel soon. And I'm seeing it happen. I'm seeing this slow type of negative reaction to the fans. Even on Reddit, they were talking about how it was too much, how Cody just drove up with his freaking RV, his truck, freaking came through, and the moves he was doing was, kind of annoying. Some people, I'm seeing the fans turning a little bit against Cody, just like we turned a little bit against Britt Baker, and they turned it into a positive. I could see it happening with Cody. I don't disagree. I think eventually what will happen is all of these evils that are coming against Cody will make him turn to the dark side. I think it's coming. I think it's coming eventually, and I think it's been coming for a year. And I think the heel turn probably would have happened at Double or Nothing, but it's going to be extended out to an all-out. I think what we're going to eventually get is Cody versus Kenny Omega eventually in the summer. I think we're going to get that maybe too as well. And I think it'll be fantastic. But yeah, Lance Archer needs to win, but I'm interested to see what Cody's character development is going to be. How's his mindset? His wife is getting destroyed by Jake the Snake Roberts. He's dry humping her on national television for her. Okay, he lost his chance for the AEW World Championship. He lost to MJF. He has a terrible neck tattoo, and on top of that, he lost the TNT World Championship or TNT Championship opportunity. I don't think this is going to bode well for Cody and his mental psyche, and I think he's just going to lash out. And he could use the COVID-19 crisis. Like, we're supposed to be raking up all this dough. There's no fans here, and even when there is no fans, they're shitting on me. So I think it will be a great heel turn eventually for Cody, but it's going to be a slow burn heel turn.
I think Cody's going to turn on his dog. That's what I think. That you want to get heat. You want to get heat. Cody should crossroads Pharaoh right in the middle of the ring. Boom.
No.
I think he already turned heel on Pharaoh when he brought him out at All Out, and the freaking pyro went up. And
oh, that was so bad. We saw that live. I've never seen a dog more scared in my life. I don't mean to laugh. The dog is so nice, but. Man, yeah, Cody did turn heel on him. Maybe Pharaoh,
Nick. You met Pharaoh.
Maybe Pharaoh turns heel on Cody, right? That's stupid. But we haven't even got Eric's opinion. We're already talking about dogs beating up people and stuff. Eric, who do you think wins the TNT Championship?
It would be fair if Lance Archer won the championship. And yes, I do agree. Lance Archer should be definitely winning the championship, because if Cody were to win, then all that heat, all that stuff that Jake the Snake and Lance put him through, put his wife through as well, then it would be for nothing, because obviously it would be a waste for Lance to come in. I've been following Lance Archer since TNA when he was went by the name of Lance Hoyt. Now, with that being said, I've been a fan of him for a while, and so him coming into TNA, it's more like a refresher. So it's like now he can get the break that he deserves, that he could have got back in TNA, and now he can get it here in AEW by defeating Cody. And yes, I do agree that maybe after this match, Lance and Jake pushes and pressures Cody into a whole different side of him to come out and start becoming this heel dude, this heel persona that we've seen before, but on a grander scale. I expect Cody to start shooting on the fans, or start shooting at people, on camera. And the wrestlers, and actually go out there, make the promos real, get out there and start, make these promos look like it's real, like it's raw out there. So I think that in a way, Lance might be the final nail in the coffin for Cody, because, not just Lance put him in that kind of position, but a guy like MJF, Wardlow, and other wrestlers put Cody through. I think in a way, like it all builds. It all helped build and pressured Cody to become a whole different person. So we might see something like that in the future. But I have to go with my boy Lance Archer winning this championship.
It's interesting, because I think a lot of people complained when they saw Cody and Lance Archer get in this finals, because it was somewhat predictable that they would get there. But a lot of people wanted Darby Allin, because you want Darby Allin as that TNT champion, that secondary champion. Maybe you're looking at it now and they're saying maybe they kept Darby Allin for this casino ladder match, because this seems like an idea that they were going to do for sure. And so now this really is the match, and that's why I think it even means more Lance Archer wins, because the fact that he's there and not facing Darby Allin, it gives him a better chance to win, because Darby Allin's such a fan favorite.
Yeah. Is this the match that Mike Tyson's presenting the belt to, or is it the AEW championship?
It's the TNT championship, correct? Okay. Right? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do you think that maybe Mike Tyson?
Oh shit! He knocks him out or something like that. Play a role in this
one. Screw Cody, or might get himself involved. I see a lot of involvement in the match.
Maybe Cody turns heel that way, of having Mike Tyson, using Mike Tyson as a weapon in the match. Like it just, that's very interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's it's crazy. None of us thought of that too. Good job, Eric, on that one. That's good. Let's see, Mike Tyson knocks it. Mike Tyson been training for AEW. That's what he's been doing, bro. That's
geez. Okay.
That's charity match right there.
Yeah, the charity match is Cody versus Mike Tyson. We all didn't expect that. All All right, so before we get to the main event, I want us to each pick who should win the 4 matches we didn't decide. So we'll go one by one here. Eric, Private Party versus Best Friends. Who needs to win this, and who needs a world tag team championship shot?
I see Best Friends winning this one. Private Party, they haven't been really active as much, but Best Friends, they've been progressing, winning or losing, but they still stand out to be an interesting team. So I think Best Friends, and by the help of Orange Cassidy. So yeah, that helps Best Friends a lot.
Nice. Jesse, Nyla Rose is facing Hikaru Shida, who's been one of the top wrestlers for women. No disqualification, no count out. Does that maybe come into play? Is there some way Shida can win this, or do you think Nyla Rose keeps it?
I think Nyla Rose keeps it. She's a monster. Come on.
I got your kendo stick, bitch.
Yeah.
That kendo stick would barely budge her. Like, hit her in the face.
Well, that's what I was saying, bro. Like, as big as Nyla Rose is, and I'm not making fun of her for that. I'm saying for as big as she is, hit her harder in the face.
I know, that was a light.
Gee, it's like one of those John Cena chair shots, you know? RKJ, MJF versus Jungle Boy. MJF has Wardlow. Who needs to win this?
Well, this is the toughest one out of all of them. Jungle Boy needs it more, man.
Wow.
Needs it more. And I can Jungle Boy, he's a star that they've just been butchering on. And in Jurassic Express, they've been butchering on. Obviously, some people can say they like Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt. I'm in between with Marco Stunt, but Jungle Boy is a bona fide star. I like Jungle Boy. I think he's got a great look, and I think if you're gonna put the launch pad on him, do it now. Have him beat MJF and have it in a screwy way. And MJF, he'll be fine.
Yeah, maybe you could have. I mean, obviously, you expect someone like Luchasaurus to be out there, someone like that, Marco Stunt. We obviously have MJF versus Marco Stunt on Dynamite. If you're watching this after Dynamite, it's already happening. You know what happens. I'm sure that's just a heat match where MJF's just going to destroy him. So my match, Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander. I absolutely think Britt Baker 100% has to win this match. They've been building her as the best heel, to be honest, in the women's division, maybe besides Nyla Rose. And I think it will eventually lead to Britt Baker taking the title away from Nyla Rose. But I think Britt Baker, she needs to win this match. The fact that it's on the pay-per-view, it should be the only reason this match is on the pay-per-view is for Britt Baker to win it on a national stage, because she's been awesome. And by the way, she is a dentist. All right. Yeah. The last match that we're going to talk about here is the obvious one, Jon Moxley versus Mr. Brody Lee for the AEW World Championship. Kind of unexpected by some, because you would have thought this maybe would have gone down the line. I'll just predict this first. I think you got to keep it on Moxley. He's too big a champion right now. He's too big of a name. I think Brody Lee has other stuff that he can deal with in AEW besides the championship. And I just think that it'd be weird if they took the championship off Moxley in this time, do it on a bigger stage in maybe a more surprising way. So I'm going to go with Moxley on this one.
As much as I'm happy that Brody Lee is getting his break on this company and he is going after the big one immediately, just making his debut, it says a lot. But to be fair and to be blunt about it, it's going to have to be Jon Moxley, because Jon Moxley, like you said, Nick, he's too much of a bigger star. He's only held the belt since February, since Revolution. So yeah, I can see Jon Moxley have a pretty good run on him, maybe till All Out, or maybe down along the lines like Full Gear. But it all depends. Jon Moxley's just too big. I do see, like, yeah, it's a good feud, but I want to see more. I expected more from this. It is interesting, but build more on this. So it feels like a little bit not rushed, but it feels like they put Brody Lee kind of like at the last minute during this crisis, So yeah, I mean, it's something that you can't control, but it is what it is. But I think Jon Moxley is going to win this match. I think that one of the guys from the Dark Order, they mess up, they actually screw the match, and Brody Lee gets pissed, and then you see the next episode, Brody Lee is going to discipline these guys by beating them down, like we've seen in the past few weeks with his members. So I think that could happen. Yeah, Jon Moxley's winning this one.
I mean, obviously Moxley. I mean, he just barely had the title for a while, barely for a little bit. You know, he had the greatest matches against Kenny Omega, building up to that, and then going into that, he had a great match with Chris Jericho. So, I mean, it's too soon for him to lose the title right now. And then if he does, he's been talking actually doing MMA, which is surprising.
Moxley?
Yes, because he's been talking to Robin Black, who is a MMA analyst and also is pretty close to the company to Bellator.
1 minute breakdown.
where Jake Hager is right now. And Jake Hager is using the arm triangle as we speak, and it's a pretty big move in not just in MMA, but also in pro wrestling that they're using now.
Well, that'd be super interesting if Moxley went to the MMA world. I haven't heard much about that, so I want you to tell me about that after. But RKJ, you got last turn. Who wins the AEW Championship, Brody Lee or Jon Moxley?
Oh, I think it's Jon Moxley. I'm sorry, Jesse, but Jon Moxley knows where his bread is buttered, and that's pro wrestling.
Bread and butter somewhere else, but yes.
No, his bread and butter and his drink is right.
She's in Las Vegas. She's in Las Vegas. That's what he's talking about. Go ahead.
Okay. Look, here's the situation. Here's what I think, honestly. First of all, I'm not happy with Brody Lee and his character. Now, granted, some of it's not his fault. I understand that the guys from the Dark Order, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, are stuck in Canada. And from what I heard, that Canadian border won't be open to the United States for too much longer. It won't be open for about another month or so. So they're going to be stuck in Canada for another month. So that's another big part of his act that is really going to struggle right now. But honestly, he has not been impressing me. I don't like the whole blatant Vince McMahon ripoff that they're doing, even though he claims it's not. I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I can see through it. Okay. Yeah. One knock on him is okay, maybe two, but more than enough. Okay, it's just looking petty now. Okay. So yeah, Jon Moxley wins because I don't think Brody Lee's established enough. I don't really understand, besides the pandemic, why would you put Brody Lee in some type of a situation like this when he had an intense face-off with Dustin Rhodes? So maybe Dustin Rhodes can get involved in this match and screw him over, and that can set up a feud for Brody Lee to go over for. But I don't really think AEW and Tony Khan is doing Brody Lee a favor and a service in this situation, putting him in the world champion. And really right now, nobody should be losing their titles right now because of this situation. It's going to be really hard. You need a really good situation, a really good scenario. Somebody needs to be built up for me to say, okay, I can understand why you let that person lose the championship in the middle of a pandemic.
Completely unrelated, well, besides different company. Sami Zayn lost his title during this pandemic, so I mean, it could have happened.
That's a whole other story. WWE is insane right now in the worst way. Like, they are just doing shit left and right. Doesn't make sense. They're putting on the best wrestling match ever. Let's end this podcast positively before I punch my screen. If we have to talk about WWE, okay?
Oh yeah, Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black are back from the dead. I didn't know that.
That's true. And AJ Styles it has been for the last 3 weeks. Nobody's talked about these guys coming back from the dead, as well as Becky Lynch becoming the first pregnant man ever. So that's what's going on. That's your WWE report for the week. But let's get back to the better company, and that is AEW. Yeah, you guys made a lot of great points. I mean, I agree. It's strange that Brody Lee is in this so quickly. I think you could have done so many other people. You could have maybe done a Darby Allin at this point and had him lose. You could have a bunch of other people be in this match. Is there any way this match isn't the main event, the World Championship match? Or do we think maybe the Stadium Stampede is the main event, or maybe the Casino Ladder match? Does anybody think that that's not the main event?
I'll say this. I think is you guys could call me out on this, but the TNT match, title match.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
I agree.
I would be fine with that. That's been the one that's built up the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may make more sense to me.
RKJ?
I think the Stadium Stampede match. Why? Because I think we're going to get the debut of the Revolt, formerly known as the Revival. I think they're going to play a part in this match. I think the Revolt, and we're finally going to get the Revolt and Young Bucks feud that we've been wanting for 2-3 years now.
They've been tweeting about it too.
It's interesting.
That could be a given.
I do agree with you that the Stadium Stampede match is going to happen because I think they're going to tear the place apart. And I think after that, whether it's the football field or the ring, you can't really have much matches. And I agree with you that most of the titles are, well, one title is inaugural and the other two will stay on the people. So I do think that it will just remain the same and there's no reason to just have an obvious outcome. Eric, do you think that the World Championship match is the main event?
The TNT title, yeah, unless the Elite.
I'm talking about So you think the TNT title is the main event?
Yeah, I think it should be the main event. There's more in depth with that storyline, and it's been built for a while, and they took their time, and it's a big seller, and they made it personal, which I like from Cody's side and Lance's side, I think.
I'll say this: if the Brody Lee John Moxley match is the main event, that probably means something huge is happening, or we have a surprise that we'd never expect, or something like that. That's what I would expect from that. I'm hoping to be Roman Reigns, but let's see. Because WWE, no, and no. We're
Dennis
not
Rodman.
going on that.
Dennis Rodman.
Carmen Electra.
Michael Jordan, might as well.
Michael Jackson.
No, we don't want to
R.
see
Kelly.
Kobe Bryant.
R.I.P.
He said Michael Jackson, so I had to go with that one. That's being cut out. No, I'm just kidding. Fun podcast, guys. That's all we have for today. We're excited about Double or Nothing. Even though there's no fans, I'll definitely be purchasing it. I'll be watching it for sure. And I can't wait to see all these great matches. And I hope everything we've kind of discussed happens and there's not a lot of BS. AEW does a good job with no BS happening. I remember when we watched, it was Revolution. That was one of the best booked pay-per-views I'd ever seen.
Awesome.
Like who won the matches and what everything happened. It was awesome. So I'm very excited. With that, RKJ Man, take it away.
Hey man, if you like our content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.
Oh yeah.
This is Watts, and don't forget to subscribe to the Ring Generals, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
Absolutely.
Do it, or I will get you.
And that's a threat right there. Raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.